Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Rebecca Johnson of Supergirl Radio. I'm getting the live stream started here. We haven't been streaming for about a little over a month, so we're probably going to be a little rusty coming back for the first episode of 2024 for the podcast. So I personally am trying some new things with StreamYard, trying to stream through Firefox instead of Chrome. So hopefully I won't have any glitchy things going on. I already see some stuff with my green screen is not the best, but we'll just go with it for now. So hopefully I won't have any more situations where I freeze up, but we'll see. StreamYard's going through a lot of changes and a lot of new updates, which are pretty cool. We'll probably, for the Supergirl Radio Patreon, we'll probably experiment with the broadcasting to Instagram for some reason. I guess people have been asking for that. I don't know that that's going to be a change that we implement for Supergirl Radio, where we stream to Instagram. I don't know. Still looking into it, but it's now available in StreamYard, so we'll probably do a Patreon exclusive about experimenting with that. But as far as tonight for the stream, we're going to be talking about the 9 Kittens of Christmas, which is a sequel to the beloved Christmas movie, The 9 Lives of Christmas, which we talked about back in December. And since I had a lot of feelings about the sequel, about the 9 Kittens of Christmas, I proposed that we go ahead and do the follow-up to the sequel on our first episode back, so we could just, really get it out and let out some of those feelings. So that is what we're going to be talking about tonight. So if hopefully you've done your cat homework, and if you haven't, you should be able to hop on in. Let's see. I need to send Morgan a StreamYard code. As I said before, we are a little rusty because we haven't done this in a while. So I am going to see if I can get her in here, and then we can go ahead and get started. So we'll see if that works. But as far as the chat goes, it looks like we have Kenny joining us. So Kenny says, recently watched Scooby-Doo and Crypto 2 on Max, and it's one of my favorite DC animated crossover films. So I'm glad to hear that you like that. That's on my to-watch list. We may cover it for Supergirl Radio. We'll see. But that's good to hear that it was an enjoyable watch, and it seems like they did it pretty well. The animated style fit the movie, so that's cool to hear. We'll be getting to some more DC stuff. This is the last of our kind of cat episodes and episodes that are not Supergirl centric. We'll be doing a couple of other things. We're going to be talking about Stasnair in Rebel Moon, because he just had a kind of a big break with Rebel Moon. So we'll be discussing that as we follow up with all of Supergirl's actors as they have gone on from the show. We're going to catch up with a lot of them. So that'll be the next one that we tackle. Morgan, it looks like you're there. You're ready to go. All right, good. I'm trying new things. I'm trying new things with StreamYard. Trying to stream from Firefox, which is new and different for me. I don't know if I like it, but hopefully we won't have any like freezes or dropouts or anything like that. So we'll see if that works. Well,
I feel like I was the technical difficulty this time because I couldn't break into StreamYard.
I gotta get the code to break in. Yeah. It's all good. We're there now. So are you good to go? I should ask you, are you good? Because that seems like a very fitting to the thematic situation with the 9 Kids of Christmas, because every 5 seconds somebody would mention they're good. I'm not good. I'm good. Are you good?
I'm so good. Listen, if I had 9 cats, I'd be great too. I'm good. I'm like not 9 kittens good, but what can you do?
Morgan's like a Melissa McCarthy of Bridesmaids with all those dogs. Like,
I'm just like, I'm gonna be collecting them. Like Pokemon, I gotta catch them all.
Okay, well, if you have the doc, yes, good. Okay, because we have a lot of news to cover too as well. Before we get to the cats, we got some news we got to cover. So we will go ahead and get started, and we'll be right back.
McGurk! I love typing.
Not mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom. Because
she looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. It's so fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Yes! Welcome to Supergirl Radio, your source for all things related to the CW Supergirl TV series and the character of 𝙏𝙚 𝙆𝙚. My name is Rebecca Johnson.
I'm Morgan Glennon.
And we are live and wired on the DC TV Podcast YouTube channel, the Supergirl Radio Facebook page, to discuss and review the second movie in the Brandon Routh cinematic cat universe, titled The 9 Kittens of Christmas. Now, I pitched that we go ahead and just do this back to back because I personally, I don't know about you, Morgan, we'll get into it, but I had personally had a lot of feelings about this sequel.
I had to know what was going to happen next. When I heard there was a sequel, I was like, sign me up.
I don't think we could have made, I should only speak for myself. I could not have made it another year until the next Christmas review. I couldn't do it.
365 days before I know what happened to Mary Lee? No.
So we're just going to go ahead and knock it out, and we're going to talk about the sequel, The 9 Kittens of Christmas. So we're just prolonging the Christmas season. I find that to be a very happy thing. I try to have a Christmas tree as long as I can stand it. So this just seems right up my alley. So we're going to be talking about the 9 Kittens of Christmas. But before we do that, we need to get to
the news.
Let's get to the news. I had to find it. According to Deadline.com, DC Studios is planning to test actresses soon to star in Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and that Millie Alcock, Amelia Jones, and Meg Donnelly are in the mix. There is a chance the studio could make a straight offer to a star, but all things are pointing towards screen tests for actresses, which will go down within the next month or so from what Deadline has heard. Deadline understands that DC Studios co-boss James Gunn is definitely part of the process, as this is a character who will likely make a debut via a cameo in a DC project that isn't Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow.
That could only be one movie though, because
What
there's only
movie
one
could
movie
it be?
before hers.
I don't know what it could be. Could it be a Superman, perhaps?
It could possibly be.
Could it be the other movie that's also just Superman that's coming out first? So she's gonna bring in Superman. The search is ongoing for a Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow director.
Yeah, we don't have one of those yet.
Don't have a director yet, but we have a writer and we're working on actress. So, check and check. Alcock is best known for her lead role on HBO's Game of Thrones spinoff, House of the Dragon, playing Princess. Oh God.
Somebody Targaryen.
Somebody Targaryen.
I don't watch Game of Thrones, so I don't know.
Raya.
She's a princess.
I think you can tell that I haven't quite gotten to that Game of Thrones property yet because I have no idea. I'm gonna go ahead and say Raya. That feels right to me. It's not, but it feels right.
Wait, let's try it. Ray in Ra?
Ray and Ra.
I don't know. That's so wrong. I know Targaryen though. I've heard of that. Yeah.
She plays Enya on the House of the Dragon. Jones counts feature credits such as Paolo Sorrentino's Youth and Apple's Oscar Best Picture winner Coda, as well as the Netflix series Lock and Key. Donnelly has starred in Disney Channel's Zombies franchise, which I don't know anything about.
There's like 3 of these movies. Okay,
so many zombie movies.
All right, just while we're here.
Okay. Yes.
I'll try to explain
This is important.
the zombie thing for you.
The zombie cinematic universe.
Because I tried to dip my toe. I haven't gotten into the Game of Thrones stuff yet. I didn't have time to get into that, but I tried to dip my toe into like different aspects.
Have you watched a Zombies yet?
So I started the first one. So
how was it?
So it's a Disney Channel movie. I'll just say that.
So it's good. So it's solid.
So the premise is there's this town where they had like this nuclear explosion that caused a bunch of people to become zombies. Okay. I don't understand it, but so
it's
just
like
go with it.
It's like a zombie town.
Yes, sort of. Like half of them are like regular humans.
Okay.
Meg Donnelly's part of the regular human part.
That seems like a problem for the regular humans.
It is. So in the story, they have, the separation of the regular humans and the zombies. And then at some point they're like, no, we must integrate them into the same school.
Oh,
so the zombies are going.
These
to
are
school.
these are like full, like these are functional zombies. Like these are zombies with hopes and dreams.
Yes, yes. So the zombie, the main zombie, the kid who wants to try out for the football team.
Sure.
He explains that they've given them special bracelets that prevent them from wanting to eat brains.
Wow.
So they're totally cool. They just have green hair, but they're totally cool.
So they're cool. And one could argue, why are they zombies at all? It's fine. So it's more of like an zombie than like a Night of the Living Dead zombie.
Yeah. So I didn't get real far, so it might have gotten out of control. I assume one of the bracelets at some point goes off.
Somebody's eating a brain. That I mean, I can guarantee you that. Meg Donnelly, watch out.
So it's a musical. Meg Donnelly plays like a student who wants to become a cheerleader on the cheer squad, and she sort of has a meet cute with that guy who wants to be a football player, the zombie. So it's like Romeo and Juliet kind of thing.
It's a love story. She's a human and he's a zombie. Could that make it any more obvious?
So that's the premise of the zombie universe. Like I said, I only got about 30 minutes into the first one, so I really don't know what happens.
Well, that is more than I knew about it, and I'm psyched to find out.
I will say Meg Donnelly was great in it. For what she was asked to do, she was good in it.
She was crushing it.
She danced, she sang, she had to pretend to love a zombie, all good stuff. So
amazing.
That's just catch you up on the zombie franchise.
And we are making fun, but a lot of people have gone from a Disney Channel background into stardom and just do a lot of cool stuff. So,
Also, they made like 3 of those zombie movies, so there must be an audience for it.
incredible. I love that for them. I love that for us.
It's a big hit, apparently.
It's the zombie universe, the zombie hive rise up. Am I right? Is that how people use that?
Oh, we have an update in the chat. CV Cube says at one point in the movie, the bracelet gets hacked by the evil humans to make them go off and become zombies.
No.
Exciting.
That's terrible. It was so traumatic that like my camera just gave up on life.
Did Bunsen have anything to do with it?
I think so. I'm gonna try to reset the camera to see if anything happens. I'm an angelic ball of light now. I've ascended. I was so happy about that plot detail, that spoiler.
Okay, I guess we should get back to the news.
Sure. Okay.
Since we've gone off the deep end.
I've been pitching zombie cast to Rebecca, but she says, no, that's not what this podcast is
we
about.
could do like a minute by minute podcast
of a zombie movie. We could really get like deep into it when the humans hack the zombie bracelets. We could really like get in there.
I would actually listen to that part.
Me too. It's gonna get real deep. The zombies are a metaphor for okay. But getting back to it, obviously Donnelly has starred in Disney Channel Zombies, which we all know and love now, and is already the voice of Supergirl in the DC animated movie Legion of Superheroes and Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earth's Part 1. And presumably part 2.
There is, from what I understand, 3 parts.
Oh, so maybe all 3 parts. We don't.
Maybe, I don't know. I assume.
Yeah, bud. What do you think about that? Bunsen's looking directly into the camera now, so deep into the soul of our viewers and listeners.
He looks so majestic.
Doesn't he? Isn't he a beautiful boy? Bunsen, do you have any thoughts about the casting of Supergirl? Do you have a front runner? Bunsen does love zombies, so yeah, that's right. Oh, he's got to go. He's got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, he's got things to do.
He's like, oh no, this is too much of the spotlight for me. I like to just ruin your live streams whenever possible. Don't ask me my opinion. Okay, he's a very private cat.
Yes.
Yes, Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1. Superman Legacy, meanwhile, is prepping to shoot this spring in Georgia and has been set for a worldwide release on July 11th, 2025.
So about a year and a half from now.
All right. Not that long, not too long.
So, Morgan, what are we thinking about the possible Supergirl actresses that we may be getting?
Well, I'm excited that they're casting Supergirl. That makes it more real for me. I have to admit, when they said like they're doing a Supergirl movie, I was like, yes. And then when they said it was Woman of Tomorrow, I was like, yes. But a small/large part of me was like, will it happen?
Yes.
And so I didn't want to get my hopes up. I didn't want to get my dreams crushed, right? But like now it seems very like it's going to happen. And now I'm starting to get excited. Like
yes,
they're casting people. They're getting script writers. Starting to feel like a movie. Watch it still not happen. And at this point, like I'm so excited.
It's gonna be like the Flash movie where it was like, we're going to release this in 2018, and then it didn't happen until, what was last year, 2023? It took a long time to do that.
It's going to be great, though. You just wait. It's going to be the movie that changed cinema. Did it.
It's going to be Tom Cruise's all-time favorite movie.
This movie changed the way I feel about film. Tom Cruise. Yeah, the funny thing is, usually with these, I'll have like I watch a lot of TV. I watch a lot of movies. So usually I have some background of like the different actresses. And I know the girl from Game of Thrones, or the House of the Dragon. I have seen
whoever she is.
Yes, Princess Enya or Rhea. I have seen her like in stuff, and I've seen like clips, but I haven't actually caught up with House of the Dragon because I was a little burnt out after the end of Game of Thrones, and I needed some time to distance myself away from the franchise. But I've heard she's good. And then obviously I like Meg Donnelly from the animated stuff, from the voice work, and the other girl who Amelia something Jones.
Yes.
I heard that Coda is great. I haven't actually watched it yet, but like she was in. Did it win the Oscar?
I think it won something. I
Yeah.
don't really watch award seasons anymore, but
No, I'm too lazy.
I will just say that after this news came out, I did not know who Amelia Jones was. And so I watched Coda. And let me tell you, I cried like a baby.
That's what I've heard
watching
from
that movie.
everybody who's watched. Every time I'm like, oh, I haven't seen it yet. They're like, no, it's great. You have to watch it. Apparently, it's very emotional.
And very emotional. The premise is that she is the only person in her family. She has a mom, a dad, and a brother. They're all deaf, but she is the one who is not deaf. And so she has to do a lot of the heavy lifting in their business because they're fishermen. And so in order for them to have a boat to meet the, the regulations of the fishing industry, they have to have somebody out there who can let them know if somebody contacts them by the radio or there's an emergency, something or other. So they have to have somebody that can talk to the speaking people. So she is very important. And so then she has this dilemma because she wants to sing. She wants to be a singer. And she wants to go to college, but can she go to college, but also help her family with their business? And there's like a real dramatic dilemma, and it's very sweet. It's very good. I could not pull it together. I cried all throughout that thing. And I will say that Amelia Jones was great. She was very good in it. She could handle a lot of ranges, a lot of different emotions. And it wasn't just so much that she, I think a lot of people have talked about how she took 9 months to learn how to do the signing and everything. That's great. But I think what made that effective was that she did the signing and she was really emotive in her face and in her tone when she would speak while she signed. So I thought that was excellent. So I will say that even though she has brown hair in that movie, I could totally still see her as Kara. I think, we did have a brunette actress in Melissa Benoist.
That's true.
She dyed her hair a dirty blonde. So I think that's still possible. So I think Amelia Jones, if she were to be cast, I think she would be a great actress, and I think she could handle it. Meg Donnelly, obviously, has been great as Supergirl in the animated universe. And I think I do remember that back when James Gunn announced his plan for the DCU, he mentioned that he wanted to be able to hire people who could do both live action and animated stuff. So Meg Donnelly could potentially have like an upper hand, or she could already be halfway there. But I did talk on Dave the Film Junkie's live stream on Friday, and we discussed it to the point where I kind of realized like there's no need for Meg Donnelly to voice Supergirl after the Crisis movies. So I don't know if she would if they would still need Supergirl in animation after that, but she has done animated work. So she does have that in her arsenal there. So she does fit the voice acting part of that. And she is a good actress. I thought she was great in those zombie movies. She was also in the Winchester TV show.
Oh, yeah.
From the CW. So I watched a little bit of that. She was pretty good in that. And then is it Millie Alcock?
I think so. Yeah.
Have not seen Game of Thrones or Game of Thrones House of Dragon, but I do hear good things about her performance. A lot of people, when they talk about Game of Thrones, they do talk about her character. So I think whoever we get will probably be a pretty good actress. So that's all I really care about, is just somebody who can do it really well. I am curious, though, what the screen tests will involve, because some screen tests, like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man screen test, involved him fighting, doing a scene where he fought some criminals. So I wonder if they will actually have Supergirl, like in their screen tests, will they have Supergirl doing fight choreography or something like that? Because I think Meg Donnelly, given her dance background, she could probably handle choreography pretty well. So I'd be curious, like how they go about choosing Supergirl there. Will the screen test involve her with Superman? that could also be something they look for as well. I anticipate she will be a cameo in Superman Legacy to tease up the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow movie. My speculation is that they will somehow have her say goodbye to Superman. She flies, she has a birthday party, she goes off world, gets drunk, and that's how she meets Ruthie. So that's my speculation. I have no idea if that is true. But I think if they're casting actresses now, she's probably going to be in Superman Legacy in some way. I am curious, Morgan, what did you think about the fact that the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow director, whoever that may be, is not getting to cast Supergirl?
Yeah,
what are your thoughts on that?
I feel like, and I don't know, I'm not in the biz, but I do feel like it's usually like there's usually a director before they go into casting. I guess with some of these like cinematic properties, they can kind of bypass that sometimes because they have, like the James Gunn situation, or the Marvel situation where they have just kind of a bunch of stable of people. But usually I feel like the director is involved in the casting. So it is a little weird that the director hasn't been picked yet and they're casting the lead already. But who knows?
Yeah, it's not unheard of. Like for the DCEU, for example, when Zack Snyder was casting Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, he had Wonder Woman in the cast, so he went ahead and cast Wonder Woman. And Patty Jenkins came behind that and directed the Wonder Woman movie. Same thing with Jason Momoa as Aquaman, the Flash, Ezra Miller's the Flash, and Ray Fisher as Cyborg. He got to cast all of the Justice League because they had played a part in Batman v Superman. Excuse me. So that could be a similar case where James Gunn is writing Superman Legacy and wants to have Supergirl involved in it. And so that's why he's getting to cast her. But yeah, it just kind of stinks that not only is the director not getting to cast Supergirl, they're not casting Supergirl and Ruthie at the same time, which I think is unfortunate.
Yeah.
In an ideal world, I would think that you would want to cast Supergirl and Ruthie together so that you could make sure that they had good screen chemistry and they got along. I would think that that's pretty important since they basically carry that story together. But it is what it is. So I guess maybe by the end of January, sometime in February, maybe we'll hear an official casting decision. So I hope all the actresses get a good experience out of it, no matter who gets cast. And we'll have to talk about it more when we hear something.
It is exciting. I saw a comment from Aaron to correct me. I said I thought it won. Aaron says, among other things, Coda did win Best Picture in the Oscars for 2021. So that's pretty exciting.
It deserves it. I mean, I haven't cried at a movie like that in a long time. So pull it together, Rebecca. It's not that big. But yeah, so we'll have to see where we go from here. But I think it's interesting. Also, we mentioned Superman Legacy is going to be shooting in Georgia. I imagine a lot of these DCU movies might be doing the same. They have a big movie studio there now, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe used those studios quite a bit. I know a lot of the Guardians movies were shot there. I feel like Avengers Endgame was also shot in Georgia. So it's kind of no surprise that James Gunn is also using that facility to start his cinematic universe over at DC. So that's good to know. I have a feeling a lot of downtown Atlanta buildings will be used.
Oh yeah, you're going to be able to spot them when we see the movie. You're like, ooh, I know that.
I'm pretty sure I know which building they're going to pick for the Daily Planet, but we'll just see. Because
I money on it.
Because real quick story. So when I worked at Turner, my first year, I had like the graveyard overnight shift. I would go in at 11 p.m. and I would get off at 7 a.m. And so when I would drive in downtown, it was dark. It was usually foggy and smoky. And there was this one building, I cannot remember the name of it, but I always looked up at it and I was like, that kind of looks like that would be a good building for the Daily Planet. So I've always thought that. So we'll see if they have any downtown Atlanta locations for it. And I imagine that maybe Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow will also shoot there. We'll see. So that's exciting. In more Superman legacy news, because this is news that we have not covered yet, we probably should, because these two characters we're pretty familiar with here on Supergirl Radio. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Skylar Gisondo, known for his work on HBO's The Righteous Gemstones, has been cast as Jimmy Olsen, the boyish photographer at the Daily Planet who works alongside Clark Kent and Lois Lane. At the same time, Sarah Sampaio, the Portuguese model known for her Victoria's Secret work, has been cast as Eve Tessberger, the assistant. Oh my gosh, it's taking my voice out. The assistant and sometimes mistress to the scheming villain Lex Luthor, played by Nicholas Hoult. So now we have not only Superman and Lois Lane, and Lex Luthor, we have Jimmy Olsen and Miss Tessberger. So they are really building out those side characters and the Daily Planet staff, at least for sure. So that's pretty exciting. We're getting a lot of new characters in the DCU, so we'll see if we get any more.
Ooh, that is exciting. It's so funny. The Skylar, the actor, they say he's on the Righteous Gemstones. I don't remember him, but I also haven't seen past season 1, so
well, that went probably to it.
Maybe
Yeah,
he's in one of the later seasons. So now when I catch up, I can like keep an eye out.
he certainly. I mean, he looks the part. He
does.
I mean, if you were to show me his picture and be like, "Who's he playing at the Daily Planet?" I'd be like, "I think that guy is probably Jimmy Olsen."
I think that guy's Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a real Jimmy Olsen. He's really got Olsen vibes.
All right. So, Morgan, do you want to tell us about Melissa Benoist's most recent project that she's got coming out soon?
I would love to. I thought that the news was over.
We got one more.
One more. Netflix recently dropped the new trailer for Masters of the Universe Revolution, which features the voices of Chris Wood as He-Man and Melissa Benoist as Teela. It premieres on January 25th.
So if people are not aware, the first rendition of the Kevin Smith He-Man universe had Sarah Michelle Gellar as Teela, and Melissa Benoist is coming in to replace her. So this will be the first one that Melissa Benoist is in, but Chris Wood has been He-Man in both. So if you want to check that out, Netflix on January 25th. I don't know. Maybe we'll do a pilot pod. Maybe we'll do a Supergirl Radio episode. Don't know, but I feel like that almost requires us to do some back work into the He-Man universe. It's been a while. I know He-Man, I know Skeletor, I know She-Ra, I know Battle Cat. That's about as far as I go.
I think I started watching the Masters of the Universe when it came out a couple years ago, like the animated one, and then I fell off like an episode or two in because I realized I guess I didn't watch the original when I was a kid, and I feel like to a certain extent like some nostalgia might be needed to be like really into it. I don't know. I'll make an attempt again. It's for Melissa.
I should mention that I used to love when I was a kid. There was a Masters of the Universe movie, and it had Courtney Cox in it. And I remember loving that. It was a live action He-Man movie with this little weird troll dwarf. I don't know what he was, but he was this cute little man who had this contraption, this machine that he used. I cannot remember the plot of that movie, but I remember loving that Masters of the Universe movie. So I didn't really watch a lot of the TV show, but I watched that movie a lot when it would come on TV. So that's about as far as I go back with He-Man. So I don't know. For Melissa, it's worth maybe checking out Masters of the Universe Revolution on January 25th. Well, I guess we should get to what we came here to talk about, which is the 9 Kittens of Christmas, the really important film that we have come together to talk about. The description for this movie reads, I think it actually came out in 2021.
I just fixed it in the doc, and you just fixed it in the doc at the same moment.
I realized that I had not replaced 2014, which is the 9 Lives of Christmas. So there is a 7-year, I guess, film gap between when they shot the 9 Lives of Christmas and when they shot or released the 9 Kids of Christmas. So this movie is from 2021. And the description from IMDb reads, quote, Zachary and Marilee are thrown back together at Christmas when they're tasked with finding homes for a litter of adorable kittens, unquote. So, Morgan, I guess before we really dive deep into the 9 Kittens of Christmas, before you pressed play, I'm curious, what were your expectations for a sequel to The 9 Lives of Christmas?
Yeah, there were, I mean, the first movie, so good. So I was excited. I was amped. I was like, I can't wait to see Ambrose again. He's my orange tabby sweetheart. Can't wait to see my girl Queenie, my queen. I bet Queenie is going to be cutting it up in this movie. Nothing bad could possibly happen to Queenie. Throw it up for Queenie. And then and then I was also like, I wonder where they'll be. Will they be getting married? They live together. They're dating. Things are going so great. Things are going so great with Zachary and Marilee. I can't wait to see what those 2 crazy kids are up to. So I went into this movie naive. I went into this movie with stars in my eyes. Within 5 minutes, I learned some things that were disturbing to me personally.
Yeah, right out the gate, Queenie's dead.
Queenie is dead. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. My favorite part about Queenie being dead is not only do they mention it 100 times in a way that feels unnecessary, is that so she's got a plaque on her wall that's like, Queenie, never forget.
And it says, always remembered, forever loved.
Forever loved. And then they zoom it, they stay on that for a long time so that you can emotionally process the fact that Queenie is no longer. Queenie has crossed the rainbow bridge. Queenie is on the other side.
For people who did not watch our a review of The 9 Lives of Christmas, Queenie is Marilee's cat.
Queenie is Marilee's cat. But my favorite part is that the photo that they use for her Queenie is like a production photo.
Yes.
It's like a publicity photo from the first movie. And apparently this movie, like the budget was tight on this movie, clearly, because they spent all their money on kittens and they had nothing left for props because it looked like the picture wasn't big enough for the frame that they'd gotten it, so they just did that enhance. So it's like a little blurry and a little pixelated.
Low resolution.
It's a low resolution production photo, promotional photo, and you're just like, that's exactly what it looks like. It doesn't look like a picture of her and her beloved cat. And I thought, what a way to start this movie.
Yeah, right away they tell us Queenie is no longer. Why, I'm not sure. The only reason, and humor me with this, the only reason I can think of as to why Queenie died was maybe it was a metaphor for Zachary and Marilee's relationship that had died.
Ooh.
And so, like, when she moves, because she moves to Miami, she starts this private practice with this new guy, and Queenie is a representation of the ending of her relationship with Zachary.
Of that chapter of her life. Ooh,
that's the only reason I can think of why. Because you could have just had Queenie there. Like, Queenie could have just been there.
Yeah, I also struggled with the death of Queenie, much like Marilee did. I asked, why did the cat have to be dead? It's a cat. Like, it only has so much impact on the story. And she has a different cat. So again, spoiler alert. Her new cat is named Duchess. And she's
still
also
royal.
Still royal, still beautiful, gorgeous. A Duchess is a queen. I'm sorry, Queenie. It's another long-haired cat. Like, it's like she basically just like control replaced Queenie. And it was just like, why not just, I mean, maybe the original cat actress.
Yes.
Cat actress. Thank you. I
got it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Passed on. And they were
think.
like, you know what? We can't just find another cat that looks like this cat. It's impossible. And we want
to honor her memory.
I was complaining about this to my husband. I was like, Mike, they could have just gotten another cat that looks like that cat. And Mike was like, yeah, there's like a million cats that look like Beaker. Someone could replace him. And I was like, and I went, no, they could. And I would always know. And he's like, well, you would, but like the audience wouldn't. Like, if we were to recast Beaker on this podcast, like, would anyone know? I would know, but probably
Yeah.
not the rest of the
Well,
audience.
if you had a beaker who didn't try to jump on the china cabinet, we would know immediately.
We'd be like, wait a minute, that cat's off.
There's something wrong with that beaker.
That cat was switched. But yeah, the death of Queenie. Why?
Just right away in
Unnecessary.
The old
Unnecessary. Really starting out on a downer note for this Christmas movie.
So, and in addition to that, we also find right away that Marilee's in a different city.
Marilee?
And she's with some other guy.
Who's this guy?
Who is not Zachary.
That's not Brandon Routh.
So what did you think about the introduction of her new life?
Yeah, it was a twist I didn't expect. I thought we were going to start up in this movie and they were going to be living together and maybe planning a wedding. Maybe that would be like the plot of this movie, and then like the drama would be kitten related in some capacity. And I wasn't 100% wrong. There was kitten drama.
Yeah.
But yeah, they zigged when I thought they were going to zag. They were like, no, like they broke up because Zachary couldn't commit and Marilee wanted more. And I was like, okay. But then she got too much. She's like, why can't you be ambitious? And then she like starts dating this guy that's like, work is my whole life. And she's like, you know what? Maybe I had it good.
I went too far with this one.
I went too far. I did not find that middle ground I was looking for.
So
the third movie in the trilogy, she's finally going to find a man who both works a little bit and can commit.
So I guess my question with him is again, why break them up only to then by the end of the movie put them back together?
Yeah, like I knew they were going to get back together, by the end of the movie, because that's what these movies promise us something. They say, yes, hey, we're going to make some variations on the theme, on the form. We're going to add some cats to it, perhaps. But at the end of the day, the beats are pretty similar.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this in a bad way. I like these movies. But so I knew like they were going to get back together. And I was like, why introduce like a boyfriend and a business partner that she has in Miami? Now I'm going to feel bad about her, kind of flirting with Zachary, because I know they're going to get back together. And I think at the very least, the movie did a good job of her being like immediately like, this relationship's really not working out. Like, he's a great business partner, but he never wants to do anything else but work. And that's starting to drag me down. So I was like, okay. So they're breaking up kind of not just because Brandon Routh looks like that. And she remembered that upon meeting him again.
Yeah, they had problems even before she went back to Jamestown for Christmas. I guess if I were to try to analyze it very seriously and take it very seriously, I guess the reason that you do it is because a lot of the movie is focused around the idea of Marilee trying to reconnect with the place she's most comfortable with. She tried to go to the big city of Miami. She tried to start a new place, start a new life and a new business and a new chapter of her life down there. But really, she feels like she needs to go home because that's where her sister is. That's where she has all of her memories of her family. Her niece is there. And so I guess the movie is trying to force her back there. But I still think you could still tell that story and still have Marilee have been in the little town with Zachary. I don't think you have to trash her whole life and then have her reconnect again. So I can see why they needed to do that, to try to give you the chance to watch Marilee and Zachary fall in love again, because that's essentially what happens. But I still sort of I have complicated feelings about that kind of thing, because I think it's so completely unnecessary.
Yeah, it did feel a little unnecessary, because once they kind of meet up again in the movie, they very much fall into kind of a coupley atmosphere. There's not like a lot of like hurt feelings. I could almost see this being the plot if there was like a lot of drama between them and they were still kind of mad at each other, and then they had to kind of resolve all of that. But kind of immediately they just kind of like each other again, which I mean is great for them, but it's not, at that point it's like, why not just have them still be dating? Why not just have them be trying to plan their Christmas wedding in the middle of
Oh yeah,
rescuing 9 kittens,
that's a great idea. They could have been doing. Yeah, I guess maybe their thought was it had been seven years between the first movie and the second movie, and I guess it doesn't make sense for them to have a wedding 7 years later in the
Fair. But they could have been, but the whole thing in the first movie was that Zachary doesn't like to commit, and the whole thing in the second movie is that he doesn't like change, and that he wasn't like, he didn't want to progress forward in their relationship. So as they were planning, they could have been like, we've been engaged so long because Zachary, and they could have put a lot of the same beats into the story with the characters, but just not have had them break up in the in between.
Yeah, and that stuff about change I thought was really interesting because it's touched on with the chief who is retiring. So he causes a little bit of change. He has change for himself. He has change for the fire station. Zachary becomes the new chief. So there's change in his life. But I thought it was really interesting that Marilee never addresses her issue with change. She makes a big change to go down to Miami and she starts this new change for herself with this new life down there, but it's a negative change. She does not have a positive change. I just kind of felt like a lot of the movie, she was like, Zachary needs to change. And I was like, well, what about you, Marilee? Is there anything about you that needs to change? so I got kind of mad at her about that. So I did think that was
I think we saw like both sides of change. We saw Zachary, who was so afraid to change anything about his life because what if it throws something off, including good changes. Like he had this good girlfriend who was like, let's get more serious, and he was like, no. And then he has a boss who's like retiring. He's like, okay, I want to give you my old job, which is a great promotion. He's like, but what if things are different? It's like, yeah, dude, it's a promotion though. I don't like what. And then you see on the flip side where she thought that the change would be better, it would like make her life better, and it didn't really. Like she ends up learning that she liked where she was living. She liked being in the town that she grew up in. So I did like kind of that they were showing the different perspectives, that like change isn't always bad, but also change isn't always good. It's don't change things just to change things, basically.
Yeah, and then they say at the end of the movie when Marilee is deciding if she should change to go back to Jamestown and replace the retired. I guess there is a little bit of a parallel. There's some aspects of this that are written kind of well, where the chief has retired and Zachary is going to fill in his position, and this other vet who is in the town retired. So Marilee is going to take over that vet's position in the town and become the new vet there. So I guess there is a parallel to what they're going through. So some of that I thought was done pretty well. But I'm still kind of upset about the premise of the whole thing. I don't think it was necessarily needed because it seems like it's been a long time. I think it's been 5 years since they both climbed up on top of that fire truck.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time for them.
Well, it was. Yeah, I was doing that math here. I was like, oh, yeah. She hadn't been home in 5 years, so like, it had been a while, and I don't know. Were you also confused by the presence of the chief's daughter, who sometimes seemed like she was supposed to be kind of a love interest for Brandon Routh's character, but then sometimes didn't? Like, there's a whole part where like Marilee comes into the Christmas party and she's all dressed to the nines, and the chief's daughter's like, oh, okay. I'll let you go. And I was like, is she jealous? What's happening with this? Is she jealous?
So I read that as everybody is pulling for these two to get
Oh,
together.
okay.
Like I read that as her supporting the fact that like Marilee showed up. I think she was sort of cheering for Zachary. The only reason that I don't totally know why the daughter is there. I guess the daughter is needed to come up with the going away truck gift, because that's the only reason she really plays any big part, is that she's like, oh, I know what to get my dad for his retirement party. He's got this truck he's been trying to fix up, and I couldn't do it all by myself, so I need the whole fire station to help me. That's the only real reason I could see why she factored in, because
Yeah.
she could have not been there.
She could have not been there entirely. I mean, I didn't mind her presence, and like I was also kind of like hoping she wasn't supposed to be some sort of like spoiler love interest, because I was like, how many do we need? But I definitely initially thought when we see Marilee in Miami and she's got her new guy, and then we cut over
Oh.
to Brandon Routh and there's like this pretty girl working at the fire station with him. I was like, oh, and so he has a new relationship, and they were like, no. But there were moments where I was like, wait a minute, was that flirting? But it's probably just like a natural reaction to being in a scene with Brandon Routh.
Probably. I guess in some ways maybe they were trying to play it as like her father. She's really close to her father at the station, and so when her father leaves, she'll have somebody she can be like. He would be Brandon Routh's character, Zachary, would be like another father figure to her.
Yeah, they're more
Yeah.
like family because
Yeah.
he's so close with her dad, I think.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I was initially thrown off, and I was like, oh my god, we're gonna have to get rid of 2 love interests.
Well, and we did have to get rid of one because Miles, even though he didn't want to come to the Christmas stuff with the family, he shows up to a party he was not invited to.
Not invited at all, Miles.
And so he shows up unexpectedly, and then they officially have their breakup. But then it sort of plays out like the ending of the 9 Lives of Christmas, where this time he sees her with some guy and he gets upset about it. I am curious because after that plays out and there's a misunderstanding about the love triangle, the cats seem to play a role in reconnecting Zachary and Marilee. What did
Yeah.
you think about? Because we did talk about how the 9 Lives of Christmas book is narrated by Ambrose. The
It
cat.
is. Ambrose is a kind of a big deal.
So what did you think about the cats being a little more proactive in this one?
I think this one didn't have enough Ambrose. I think I was on his side that the kittens were like stealing his light, stealing his thunder. I feel like behind the scenes he was a real diva about it, but no, I thought it was actually I found that part really funny, especially when Duchess is like digging in her purse. Now, if that was like a real cat, she'd be like, Duchess, what are you doing? And then Duchess would like come up with something that she had like put in her, like a piece of food she had put in her purse, and she'd be like, no, Duchess, don't eat the bacon wrapped shrimp. And then she'd be like fighting with Duchess to get the shrimp out of her mouth. That's like what
That seems
owning
more
a cat
realistic.
is really like. But instead, Duchess picked up a heavy cell phone and threw it at her. Which I think makes Duchess truly an amazing cat. Exactly. Queen behavior. Duchess girl. Amazing.
It was definitely somebody from the side, like throwing the phone.
It was so obvious that it was that too. That it made me laugh so hard. I had to like rewind that part and like watch it more than
Wait,
once.
But you know what? I totally bought into it. I was like,
was so
yeah,
good.
Duchess threw the phone.
Duchess knows. Duchess listens and Duchess knows. Okay. Duchess is more of a listener. Queenie was more, everything was about Queenie, right? Everything was about Queenie. But Duchess, she listened. She's like, I know what you need right at this moment, Marilee. And then she throws the phone like right in her face. The other thing I thought was really funny was Ambrose answering the phone with his little paw.
Yes.
Which I thought was really cute. But at one point, Zachary tries to steal the phone back and Ambrose like swats at him and he goes, did you just like bat at me? Like very offended. And I had to say, I have those conversations with my cat and I use that exact same tone of voice. Sir, like when I'm trying to kind of like, sometimes I'll try to move Beaker out of a spot on the couch so I can sit down and he'll start to swat at me and I'll go, sir, did you just, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. So that felt very true to cat ownership as well.
I haven't owned a cat in many, many years, so it's been a while for me. But from the stories that you have told me about the lab cats and Christmas trees, I found it pretty realistic that a lot of the time they would show the kittens around the Christmas trees, like in the Christmas trees, causing chaos with the trees. I thought was pretty realistic. So I thought they handled the cat aspects of this movie pretty well.
I thought so too. Yeah, the cats felt very realistic, except again, and I made this complaint in the last one. Everybody's just walking around carrying a cat like a small purse or something. This isn't a Chihuahua dog. Cats don't like to be carried, and you could see that in the face of every cat in this movie as they struggled to leave. So like they would be sitting down like having an emotional moment with their cat in the lap, and they would have to do this thing where when you want to keep a cat in one place, where you like
Yeah.
hold the top of it and the side of it so that it can't go anywhere. So he's like, Ambrose, you're the only one who understands me. And Ambrose is like looking all around, trying to get out,
trying to find an exit.
trying to escape. And he's like, I'm glad we can have these moments, just the two of us. And Ambrose is like, help. Every time they like picked up a bunch of kittens and we're just like holding them up, I was like, how are you not cut to ribbons?
I did like it, Marilee, I think in some of the scenes she would put a kitten in her coat and zip up the
Yes.
kitten.
That
was actually pretty clever.
That I loved at the end of the movie when they decide to adopt Rudolph, who was the little tuxedo boy of the
Cute.
kittens. She has him in the coat, and there's one scene as they're going to kiss where you can see between them how distressed and annoyed this kitten is that this is happening to him. Like as they're coming together, the cat's like, no, please not again. And it's so good. Just like I could just watch this movie sound off just the facial expressions of the cats as they're like, I don't want to act.
But if you didn't want a cat to go somewhere while you're in a scene, just
It's
zip him
brilliant.
up.
Zip him up he's too small. He's too
Yeah,
small to pipe.
he can't go
pipe
anywhere. And he's warm.
And he's
He'll
so warm.
stay warm.
Cats do love being warm. So he's
Yeah.
probably like, this is a mixed bag
I'll
for me.
I'll stay here. I feel
I'll
like
stay
this is
here, but
marginally okay.
at least it's warm. I went in the third movie in the trilogy that
Yes.
I'm manifesting into the universe. I want to know how Ambrose and Duchess get along with each other.
Oh,
I need
that's
to know
true.
about the interpersonal relationships of these cats as they like all have to move into the same place.
Well, now
Does-
they have are they raising Rudolph?
Exactly. But like Ambrose and Queenie, what they had was special. But like, are Ambrose and Duchess gonna like each other? What if the whole third movie was like the romance was just between the cats, and
Yes.
like the humans have like their own storyline, but really like the romance story of the movie is between Ambrose and Duchess, where it's like an enemies to lovers. And then they're like, this is our son, Rudolph.
They form a little family. That'd be so cute.
I love it.
But yeah, I think that would be a great third movie because there really should be one last movie.
We gotta get the trilogy going.
Oh man, yeah. So lots of cats in this one. Did have 9 kittens. I guess I did have thoughts about, but I guess we kind of touched on this. Like I was also trying to think about why the need to have like the advent calendar and the storyline about the mom because they talked about the mom a lot. But I guess the reason for that is with an advent calendar, you can show the passage of time within the story and you can sort of count down until Christmas. Then I guess you can focus on Marilee's connection to her family and wanting to move back home. And then they tease that wreath is the last thing that they take out of the advent calendar. And they talk about how a wreath is like a representation of the full circle of love. And at the end, when Zachary proposes, the wreath is something that he puts around Rudolph's neck as his little collar. So some of that I thought they underlined a little too much, like the bonded pair thing. I could have gotten there without them like telling me what it was, and the wreath thing. They didn't have to tell me. Oh, remember when we talked about the bonded pair thing early on in the movie?
The bonded
We're talking
pair
about
thing.
that now.
I know the bonded pair thing made me laugh because I was like, first off, my boys were a bonded pair, and
Yes.
and in the early in the movie when they're like, how are we gonna get all these kittens adopted, and they were like, okay, do you want one cat? And they were like, I want two. And I was like, that's correct. You want two cats.
Yes.
You always want two cats. They play with each other. They're less hassle. But
Are they?
well, not mine. But in theory,
The science.
the science. But yeah, I thought it was like the bonded pair thing was really cute until they kept on being like the cats. And I was like, no, we get it. You are also a bonded like, you don't have to keep saying it like that. I feel like if they had said the bonded pair thing once and then come back to it at the end, and at the end they were like, just like the kitties, like it would have been cute. But instead they kept on being like the bonded pair, it's science, and then looking at each other like a really long time. And I was like, I don't like this.
They did. I could have gotten to all those things without them telling me. That would be my one gripe with not one of my gripes. I have a gripe with a lot of the storytelling choices here, but the underlying of things I thought was a little unnecessary. But yeah, so I guess, Morgan, were there any other thoughts that you had about the 9 Kittens of Christmas?
I had a lot of thoughts about about the kittens themselves.
Yes. Okay, let's go.
Yes. So he finds this box full of 9 kittens. It ties into the title.
Yes.
And he's like, cool, there's 9 kittens. And then the whole story of the movie really is like, these 9 kittens need to get adopted. But they seem to adopt somewhere around 25 kittens out. And early in the movie,
it's a lot to keep up with.
Early in the movie, I started to keep account of how many kittens they had adopted out. And so like they adopt the 2 to his boss, which makes sense.
The chief takes 2.
Chief is a big cat guy, got big cat guy energy.
And he's a bonded pair like the cats, because he and his wife are together.
Exactly. Oh, metaphors.
Yes.
They're so excited to get their 2 cats. Okay, so they got 2 cats off the table. Then they go to like an event with firefighters, or they go to some other event, and then they adopt out like 4. There's a line that they should have removed where somebody comes out and is like, we did pretty good. We adopted 4 of them. And I was like, okay, so you're down 6.
It's like 6. Yeah.
So now you got 3 left.
Yeah.
But then they go to the bookstore.
And they convinced the lady at the cafe to take one.
They convinced the lady at the cafe to take one. And then he says that he had made a joke to some lady about the cats being better than therapy. And so she was going to take one. So that's 2 more. So they should only have 3. Yeah, they should only have, at this point in the movie, they should only have 1 kitten left to adopt out. I was doing this kitten math like fast and furious in my head. And I was like, okay, well, that's not that many cats to adopt out. But at this point in the movie, they're like, we have 3 cats left. What are we going to do? And I was like, sir, no, you don't. No, you don't have 3 cats left. Did one of these adoption situations fall through?
Yeah. And they just didn't tell us.
Why wouldn't you tell us that? And then they find the lady at the choir practice, and she's like, I'll take all 3 cats. I love cats, and I love accepting them from strangers I bumped into on the street. Me too, lady. Me too. So, but then she has to foster some cats, so she can't take the kittens.
She can't take them.
Okay, lots of stuff going on with her. And then at the end of the movie, they give 2 of the cats that they shouldn't have left to Marilee's niece.
Yes.
Which I was like, honestly, I was waiting that whole movie, and I was like, if that little girl doesn't get at least 1 kitten, that's it. I'm flipping tables.
Yeah.
I'm starting riots in the street. Like that little girl.
She was doing so well. She took care of the kittens. She loved them. She made sure they got their vitamins.
She was giving that little guy his vitamins. What vitamins? I don't know. Don't worry about it. They're kittens. So she gets 2, and then they take the tuxedo. So they take the last one. But I was like, this kitten math is not mathing, you know? And that is my biggest critique of this movie, is that I could not follow the kitten math that they were doing. I was like, no. What they needed to do is, like, between every scene where they were having kittens adopted, they needed to put up like a funny scorecard of like how many kittens were left and how many kittens had been adopted, and so we could like keep track properly.
That would actually have been a great editing style.
Yeah, like
Like
transitions
stylistically.
between
Yeah.
scenes could have just been like the kitten count.
Yeah. I love it. That's
Thank you.
that would have really helped because
It would have helped
actually
me. I couldn't keep track.
I actually did have trouble keeping up with. I just kind of at some point I quit counting. I was just like, whatever they say, I'll just go with.
That was the right decision to do. Like, they didn't expect anybody watching this movie to be keeping like a detailed count of how many kittens they had and didn't have.
Dialogue.
Paying attention. There was at one point where they give the little girl 2 of the kittens, and I was like, I was pretty sure that was that was the bookshop kitten. But all right, let's just roll with it. But I thought that was really funny. I was like, they clearly at one point were like, you know what? 9's a lot, but we've been giving out a lot of kittens in this story. Whatever. No one's paying attention. And they're right. No one should be paying attention. But I was.
It's just, we're just supposed to care about the number of kittens because it's the amount of time that Marilee and Zachary spend time together.
Exactly.
Because they have to team up to get these kittens adopted. So if it takes 3 extra kittens that they didn't start with to make that happen, Morgan, they're gonna do it, and that's gonna be okay. But I agree with you. It does sound like, according to the dialogue, that they had already kind of done the job before they gave out some kittens. So yes, I agree. Okay, well, I guess to wrap things up, because I guess we kind of talked about all of my big feelings that I had about this.
I like that your feelings were about like the metaphors and the plot and the structure of the movie, and my big feelings were like, there's just not enough cats. The kitten math is wrong.
That is valid.
Thank
I think that is a great thing to bring to the table. I guess my last question for you, because I was trying to think about this for myself. What did you think about this as a sequel? How for you, how is that follow-up? Do you feel like because I kind of felt like the first movie told the story of Zachary and Marilee, but now we have a completed, or so we think, story of Zachary and Marilee. How do you think that it wrapped up their story?
Yeah, I think it wrapped up their story pretty nicely. I would come back for a third, provided they don't break them up again. But yeah, I liked the little callbacks to the first movie. So he sees her, breaking up for the second time with her boyfriend. Like, no, for real, it's for real this time. Honestly, it was for real the last time. But I'm glad you're here.
You should not have come here. You were not invited to this.
So nice to see you again. And he thinks that they're back together, and he gets all sad, just like she saw him talking to some random stranger at a party and was like, he's in love, and left for some reason. And then I felt like the sort of the circle analogy when he has the little collar with the sort of the holly looking mistletoe reminded me of the mistletoe in the first one. So I was like, okay, I like the little callbacks to the first movie.
They even had when they run into each other at the grocery store, she is buying large amounts of that Mrs. Claus ice cream.
Yes, and she kicks it away. That made me laugh really hard.
That was good.
That was really great.
I appreciated that.
Although I don't think I needed the lampshade of him being like, look we're back in the grocery store.
Remember how we first met?
Remember the grocery store? It's like, yeah, dude, she remembers. We all remember. I mean, I understand that this movie was a long time ago, and honestly, if I had watched it 7 years between, I wouldn't remember that they met at a grocery store. But it was a little bit on the nose. It was a little bit too much. She was like, remember? Yeah, I guess I got it, dude. I also thought that the charm bracelets from her mom's little advent calendar, I really thought that those charms were going to end up on a bracelet on somebody's wrist at some point.
Ooh, that would have been nice.
They just never did, and I was just like, okay.
Well, maybe that's for their new tradition. Maybe next year they'll put the different charms and different dates.
Ooh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Those are like Pandora charms. That'd be a very expensive advent calendar, right?
My mom has some of those Pandora charms. They are not cheap either.
They are not cheap. Imagine buying 25 of them. Mom was rich.
Well, it sounded like their parents died quite a long time ago. Because remember, their parents died in a car accident, which is a
That's
very
right.
stereotypical, like sad sob story. But it sounded like they died quite a long time ago. So maybe the charms were. Did I freeze up again?
Yes, unfortunately.
Oh my
I don't
gosh.
know why this keeps happening.
I don't know.
It's
I
so
s- I-
strange. It hasn't this wasn't a problem for most of the time we've been doing live streaming. And then suddenly
E-
it happens like every time now.
either my because I've tried everything. I've looked at my memory, and my memory should be fine. I tried a different browser. I've tried to clear caches and make sure I have a lot of space on my computer. So I give up. So I guess I will come back in and try to make my face move, and then we'll wrap up.
Sounds good. So I will pull up some comments in the chat. I see Kenneth says Brandon Routh, no matter what movie he is in, still has the Superman face. It is true. I think that helps him in this movie. And they also make a big deal of saying that he is a superhero. And they do like she goes, I'm sure you've heard that before though. And they like basically both turn to the camera and wink. It's pretty funny. I was like, okay, all right, I see what you did there. You got your Superman joke in. Good job. But yeah, no, this one was fun. There were kittens. They shouldn't have broken them up. Yeah. Just sort of here on my own now. Yeah, let us know if you have any questions or snap judgments. You can go ahead and put that in the chat. I was just saying that they made a pretty obvious Superman superhero joke in the movie that we forgot to mention.
Yes, Marilee calls Zachary a superhero, which is obviously an Easter egg nod to Brandon Routh's time as Superman and Ray Palmer. So, because at this point he would have been on Legends of Tomorrow as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, R.I.P. Legends.
Yeah, so they did a Superman reference, I think, as well in the 9 Lives of Christmas. So
I think they did, yeah.
they had a lot of fun with some of that. Okay, so I guess overall thoughts. Did you enjoy the Brandon Routh cat cinematic cat universe?
I did. I really did. Listen, you know what you're getting when you're watching this movie. It's not going to change anybody's life, but you know, lots of cats. We see a lot of these dog movies, and listen, I love a good dog movie, me as much as anybody. But where are the cat movies, right? Like this is a movie that just loves cats. Like cats are everywhere. They're very important. Everyone in this town loves cats. So I want to move there. You can just find a cat in a cafe, at your local firehouse. Cats are just everywhere. And I like the vibe of this movie. I wish they hadn't broken them up for no apparent reason. That didn't make a lot of sense for me. I wish they hadn't killed Queenie. Never forget. That felt unnecessary. But otherwise, I really enjoyed this one. I gotta say, if they make more of these movies, I'll be back.
They are enjoyable. If you're just wanting something cute to watch, they are fun to just sit around and watch a bunch of cats and watch some people fall in love. They're pretty good movies. The only thing that I would have wanted more out of, especially with the 9 Kittens of Christmas, is an investigation into who dropped those cats off.
Yes.
Where did those kittens come from?
Yeah, they never really followed up on that.
I mean, I guess ultimately it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It's a Christmas miracle to bring
It
Zachary and
is.
Marilee back together. But I did think that was a little weird that they didn't that they weren't like, hey, who dumped these cats off? But I guess you didn't need it. So these are cute little movies if you're just wanting something almost like comfort food for your movie viewing experience. They are comfort movies to check out. Well, I guess, Morgan, would you like to do some 9 Kittens of Christmas related snap judgments?
Oh, absolutely.
In the game of snap judgments, each person is presented with 2 options, but must only choose one. First instincts are recommended and explanations are unnecessary.
Okay, so first snap judgment, bookstore cat or cafe cat?
I would rather a cat be in the bookstore, just because with the cafe, I mean, it's like food and beverages.
There's food there.
I feel like that's unsanitary.
It's definitely not sanitary. Yeah. I thought that as well. I desperately want to go to a cat cafe. It's like my only wish. There used to be a cat cafe in Asbury Park, New Jersey called Catsbury Park or something like that. And one time we almost went in and we didn't for some reason. And then the next time it was closed. And I was like, I missed my cat cafe window. And it's okay. I'm still not over it. So I desperately want to go to a cat cafe. That said, it's not great. It's not super sanitary.
Now, with a cat cafe, are you bringing your cat into it, or is it just there's a cat there?
There's just like a bunch of cats there usually. I think that the trend probably started in like Japan, which makes sense to me. They just love cats there.
They do.
Where they would there'd just be a bunch of cats, and they would just be like the cats that hung out at that cafe. In some of the cat cafes here, I think they're like a lot of them are like adoptable, so they're like rescue cats. So
that's a good idea.
You can go to the cafe and you meet a cat, and the cat meets you, and you spark with each other, and you can adopt it. But yeah, I think a lot of the cat cafes that I've seen have like the little hanging out with the cat section, and then like the little food and drink section. They're kind of cordoned off.
Yes. Okay. Well, that makes sense. I think I would rather it be. If I wouldn't go into a bookstore that had a cat. I would die. But if I had to, I think I'd probably prefer a library cat situation, because those always seem pretty cozy. Like if a cat's just chilling with the books, yeah, that seems nice.
Yeah, I would do a bookstore cat too, because I just think that would be really fun. Like you're sitting there, the cat's sitting next to you, everything's great. All right, which cat did you like better? Queenie or Duchess? Gasp! A shot straight to the heart.
I know we talked a lot about Queenie. This is going to be probably a controversial take. I'm going to say Duchess. I thought Duchess had a lot of personality. She threw a phone at Marilee. She was very active. She chased around that little thing that they brought her. I think Duchess was a good successor to Queenie's position. If we couldn't have Queenie, I think Duchess really rose to the occasion.
Now, Queenie, may she rest in peace. Beautiful diva. Okay, this is taking nothing away from Queenie. She's a gorgeous star. but yeah, I mean, Duchess did like throw a phone at somebody, and so I gotta go Duchess as well. Like this is surprising for me as well. But like Duchess was sort of like in the background, like lurking around, like listening. She understood exactly what Marilee needed in that moment, and she was like, "Get it, girl." That's a real friend. All right. Would you rather live in Miami or Jamestown, which is the town where Zachary and Marilee live?
I would live in Jamestown. Oregon's pretty far to the West Coast, but Jamestown seems like a quaint little town that I think I could live into. Miami's too big.
Miami is pretty big.
Miami's, there's too much happening. I think I like the smaller town USA feel to Jamestown.
This one's tough for me, because on one hand, it's a lot warmer in Miami than it is in Oregon. But on the other hand, all that humidity seems terrible.
You would be closer to Disney World, I guess.
I'd be so close to Disney World. Listen, I'm sorry, Zach and
You
Marilee.
could go to the beach.
Yeah, I think I'm probably gonna go. No, but then I'm in Florida. I don't. Florida's a nice to visit, want to leave kind of state for me. No
You have
offense
to deal with
people.
hurricanes.
Yeah, no offense to people who live in Florida. Again, the humidity is just not for me. So I guess I'd also go in Jamestown, but I would go visit Miami. That would be like my
Yes.
vacation.
Yes.
But yeah, I would live in. Even though it's cold, I would probably live in Jamestown.
You could
because
just
I would-
curl up with a fire and a cat.
Exactly. Okay. Who was the bigger hero in this movie? Duchess for making Marilee call Zachary, or Ambrose for making Zachary answer the phone?
This is tough
This is a tough one.
because Duchess did do something superhuman.
That's
Throwing the
throwing like a heavy iPhone at her owner.
But if Ambrose had not accepted that call, that would have been it. Marilee could have kept calling him and kept calling him and kept calling him, but Ambrose forced Zachary to listen to that message, which was so important. So I'm gonna say Ambrose.
I'm gonna say Ambrose too. I think what Queenie, I'm sorry. Oh my gosh,
No,
Queenie,
no.
I'm so sorry. What Duchess did was incredible. Without opposable thumbs, girl, you're a star. But Ambrose, I like that Ambrose. I feel like Ambrose had a less willing participant. Like Ambrose had to work harder. Like Ambrose was like, "You should answer the call," and Zachary was like, "No," and Ambrose was like, "You should answer the call," and Zachary was like, "No," and then Ambrose had to work at figuring out how exactly to place his little paw so that he would hit the accept button, and he didn't get it on the first try, right? And he defended the phone. He batted away at his owner. So I feel like he had to work a little harder to make that love connection happen.
And his paw would have to hit it the right amount.
Exactly.
Like
That's not
those
easy
are made. Those are
either.
made for human. Like
Those are made for
fingers.
our fingers.
not for cat paws. That's much more difficult. You have to get the right sensitivity to the touch there. So yeah, Ambrose had to work pretty hard for that. So I'm going to give it up to Ambrose on that one. Well, I guess that's going to take us out of Snap Judgments for the 9 Kittens of a Christmas. No judgments on your Snap Judgments. And eventually this year, I think we should make it a goal that we get new DCTV podcast plugs.
Oh, yes, we need them.
Because we're severely out of date. But until then, we are going to get to some Supergirl Radio and some DCTV podcast plugs from Joe. If you would like to contact Supergirl Radio, you can post a comment on our website at supergirlradio.com. You can email us at supergirlradio@gmail.com. If you'd like to leave us a voicemail, you can call us at 678-718-7252. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram, all at Supergirl Radio. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, Podchaser, and Spotify, where we also have a Spotify playlist that includes music featured on and inspired by the CW's Supergirl TV series. We are listed on DC's fan page, which you can find at dccomics.com/DC-fans. If you like what we do, we encourage you to give us a rating and write us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy our Supergirl Radio live streams, make sure to subscribe to the DC TV Podcast YouTube channel and hit that notification bell to get notified when we go live and wired. DC TV Podcast also has a TeePublic store, so if you're in need of new DC TV related t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, onesies, mugs, notebooks, pillows, or stickers, go to supergirlradio.com and click on the TeePublic store link at the top of the page.
Now see here, Supergirl Radio is part of the DC TV Podcast Network. So if you want to listen to other shows, we've got The Flash Podcast, Legends of Tomorrow Podcast, The Lituation Room, DC on HBO Max Podcast, Stargirl Podcast, Superman and Lois Radio, Green Lantern Podcast, The Sandman Podcast, DC TV After Dark, and Justice League Dark Podcast.
And since we talked about cats in this episode, we have some Cat Grant designs in the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store we would like to suggest.
Yeah, we got some Cat Grant merch if you need t-shirts or more really for this season that we are in, sweatshirts and hoodies are probably your better
Yes.
merchandise option to stay warm. But we have t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, stickers, all kinds of fun things in the DCTV Podcast TeePublic store. So if you need some new merch as we head into fan convention season, which for me starts next month in February. So if you need some new stuff to show that you want to represent Supergirl or Cat Grant specifically, you can find that in the DCTV Podcast TeePublic store. And we would like to thank our legion of super sponsors for supporting the Supergirl Radio Patreon. These people are Michael, Anne-Marie, Yvonne, Nicola, Abby, Miriam, Nicole, Brian, Ethan, Danny, Majuba, Zachary, Annie, and Rachel. And if you'd like to become a legion of super sponsor like them, you can go to patreon.com/Supergirl Radio. We appreciate everyone's support. And I guess if you want to keep up with me, there are several ways you can do that. I am on Instagram at the Derby Kid, where I post the occasional picture and share the usual funny cat video where you see a cat climb into a bowl that the cat shouldn't climb into. I share silly things like that. And I'm also on the social media platform Vero at Derby Kid. So I'm having a lot of fun over on Vero. I also have a YouTube channel that you can find at youtube.com/duckmilkprod, which I hope to get back to getting new content up for this year. I was recently a guest on Dave the Film Junkie's Vodka stream to talk about the DCU Supergirl screen test. So if you want to go check that out, subscribe to Dave's YouTube channel. And I also recently recorded some more episodes with Mark and Nate over at DC Cinematic Minutes to talk about minutes 171 through 175 of Zack Snyder's Justice League. And I think those are coming out maybe next week.
Ooh.
So good discussions there. So I think people will enjoy them. If you want to check them out, give them a subscribe and a listen to DC Cinematic Minute.
Awesome. Sounds great. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at 𝙏𝙝𝙚𝙆𝙚𝙯. You can also find me as a co-host on the Legendary Ladies podcast, where I believe this week we are going to be talking about the miniseries Fellow Travelers. I'm going to be honest, I don't know anything about it. I know it's got I know it's got Matt Bomer in it though, and so I am very excited to watch it. He was in what was the show that we watched for the Patreon?
Doom Patrol. He's a Negative Man.
He was in Doom Patrol, but like then he spoiler alert, you can't see his face anymore. And I was like, that will never do for me. I cannot deal with that. But presumably his face is going to be all over this show. So
that's a plus.
So if you have been checking out the show, or if you're interested, you should stop by the Legendary Ladies podcast. You can find us online, thelegendaryladiespodcast.com. We're also on YouTube at The Legendary Ladies, and Instagram at The Legendary Ladies, and Twitter at Legends_podcast.
Yeah, follow them on all the stuff because the Legendary Ladies do a great job. So I think people should subscribe. All right. Well, I think that is going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. But until next time, I'm still Rebecca Johnson.
And I'm still Morgan Glennon. And we're relieved that all 9 to 25 kittens got adopted.
McGurk! I love typing.
Not mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because
she looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.